Hi guys, I'm here today with Claire. She's got a great channel. It is Beyond the Scale True Healing. She's got over 1,000 subscribers now, which is quite incredible. She's currently trying to get watch hours up, so please watch this video either on her channel or mine or both, and consider watching the rest of her videos as well and subscribing. So thank you. So how are you doing today, Claire?
Hello, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on your channel. And I'm doing great. It's almost Christmas time when we are recording, and hopefully it will be over soon.
Yeah, it's the reason we're gonna have this discussion today. Be quite a short one, but very information packed, very dense in terms of facts. So I wanted to ask about your energy intake, your nutrient intake. So we come from different backgrounds. So Claire comes from someone from a background of an eating disorder. I come from a background of physique development, bodybuilding, things like that. So we've got to where we are now through different means. So how do you come to what your current diet is in terms of protein and fat?
Okay. It has been okay. I started carnivore 1.5 years ago, and I needed a lot of fat because I've been restricting fat for years. And so my fat intake were just incredibly high. And then through the journey, it changed quite a lot. And currently, what I'm doing, it depends of the days. I'm really listening to my body. Most of the time, I'm really the best having a high fat diet, eating tons of fat. But I balance it with days where I'm eating more protein because my body is requiring more protein. And what's happening is, okay, I have an office job. And when I'm sitting full day, 10 hours in the office, I don't need that much protein. I don't feel the need of eating a lot of protein. But each day I'm exercising, and I'm trying to exercise at least 5 days a week. I can feel that I need to have more protein intake. And what about the amount of energy I need? The energy is the fat. And when I'm exercising, I need more energy to exercise. And so most of the time, I need to increase my fat as well as my protein the days I'm exercising. But I'm eating most of the time really intuitively. And so my body is asking what it wants.
Yeah, I get that as well. So I'm someone that came from a background of eating a very high protein intake. At one point, I was eating 550 grams, and that lasted around 9 months. I
Wow,
would not
that's big.
suggest anyone try that at home. It's not something you hear me say these big numbers. Bear in mind, I am a large person. I do oxidize a lot of energy, but at that time, it seemed like I needed that much protein to really satiate myself. At that time, I could not actually digest high volumes of fat. So for me, my liver wasn't producing enough bile acids. The gallbladder wasn't secreting enough of that. And when I had higher fat, I'd feel very bad, nauseous. It became very unappealing. So people like myself, and perhaps Claire as well, we've got to a higher fat approach. When I say high fat, I don't necessarily mean higher fat, very low protein. I just mean enough fat to provide the energy intake with enough protein to sustain and potentially gain muscle mass. So where I'm at now is that my fat is somewhere around 300 grams, protein something like 200 grams. Please bear in mind I have just come off spine surgery, so my protein intake is a bit lower than what it might usually be. But what I have noticed is if I get enough fat in, my craving for protein is significantly less. So it seems to be that the two numbers between the protein and fat grams, there's almost like a middle ground. And if you can hit that middle ground where you have enough of each, you don't have to go super high fat or super high protein. So that's what I'm currently feeling. And you mentioned a great point about the intuitiveness of eating. I find if I need more protein on a certain day because I'm deficient in some way, either through the B vitamins within the amino acids within the protein, the meat, then perhaps then those then days or days after, I'll then have to eat more meat to make up for that. Um, that's just how I work. I mean, are you noticing yourself, Claire, that when you're having more protein, is that around your workout days or is it your protein fat grams are roughly the same day to day?
I'm noticing that it varies. I would say that through a week, most of the weeks, I'm eating the same amount of protein. But like day by day, it changed. The day I'm exercising, I increase my intake, of course. And because I'm hungrier the day I exercise, I eat more fat and more protein. And I will say that maybe the volume I increase is almost the same. So at the end, I'm eating like much more protein the day I'm exercising. If I look at it, like if I don't exercise at all, having around 100 grams, 120 grams of protein, most of the time is enough. The days I'm exercising, it's really often a minimum of 150 grams. I really need more. And my fat intakes are really consistent all the time. It's like the minimum of 120, 150 grams. And yeah, when I need more energy, I really up it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, some people, especially those with maybe perhaps the lighter individuals amongst us, might benefit from having more protein some days or less on other days, just as Claire outlined. Myself, this is very individual to me, and it doesn't seem to apply to many other people, but my intake of protein and fat seems to be the same regardless of if I am training or not. What I noticed is if I say have lower protein on my rest days, then my workout days I won't perform as well. So it seems to be like my Monday to Sunday protein fat grams need to be relatively quite even. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's a bit higher, sometimes a bit less, but it always ballparks around the same figure. So there's that element as well. The other thing I want to touch on as well is your fat intake. So for those of you, those out there in the audience that don't know, what was your fat intake perhaps maybe a year ago? I know, for example, you ate a very high amount of fat at one point.
Yeah, when I just started refeeding myself with animal fat and animal protein, I was eating fat as crazy. I was like, yeah, eating 6 sticks a day. Like I couldn't stop with the fat. And I would say that yeah, along the journey I decrease it, and I think it's because my body doesn't need as much and I don't have to gain that much fat that I did need to gain at the beginning. So I'm more balanced. And yeah, I think the fat you need, it depends of your body composition. If you're having a lot of fat available, I don't think you need to eat tons of fat. uh, you can moderate the fat, but if you don't have enough fat, I'm sure your body will ask for fat. What I would like to say for the protein intake is like most of the time I cannot have a huge intake of protein at a time. So when I'm eating around 100 grams of protein a day, most of the time it's through 2 meals. And when I'm increasing it to 150, most of the time it's because I added one protein meal. And yeah, eating like big meal with lots of protein and like 80 grams of protein is not really nice for me. I'm not feeling great with this, and I prefer to split my proteins through the day. But as I said, it comes intuitively because once I've been eaten 50 grams of protein, I don't feel like I want more. And I
Yeah,
don't know about you, but as well, some people are saying that eat the fat first and the protein after. For me, it doesn't matter.
yeah. I've tried it both ways personally, and I think if someone isn't very fat adapted, as in their hunger signals are a bit all over the place, you know, they come recently from a standard Western diet, perhaps having the fat first might be better. It will almost slow down the digestion more so than having the protein first. So this is where true intuitiveness comes in. So I have clients from all sides of the spectrum, you know, very light and very heavy clients, people in the middle, people are muscular, people are less muscular. Um, the people that are struggling to get the food down, for example, they eat one meal and they're stuffed. What I tell them is to have less balance between their protein and fat grams. It's not a long term thing that I'd ask them to sustain. But what we'll say is that if they have leaner meals, so for example, they're doing 3 meals per day, say breakfast, lunch might be leaner, maybe, I don't know, 50 grams of protein and maybe 30 grams of fat each meal. Then what I'll do with the last meal will be 50 grams of protein a day, 50 grams of protein in the evening. Then I'll add in maybe 100 grams of fat. I'll make it significantly higher just because they have all night to then digest that food. It will stabilize their blood glucose for longer. That will then mean they recover better from their workouts if they're training, and they can still get the meals in throughout the day without feeling sluggish. So there are a few little hacks here and there, but that's not something I'd apply to many people. But it definitely does allow people to eat more frequently, especially if, like Claire said, you don't want to have more than maybe 50, 60 grams of protein per meal. Myself, it seems to be about 60 grams is about the most I can tolerate in a single meal, at least without feeling any kind of negative effects. Currently now I'm doing 200 protein and around 300 fat, and that seems to be working quite well. But as I've become less active, I have no doubt as the weeks go on, because I'm recovering from spine surgery, I will become less active. Then my desire to eat will diminish as my recovery gets better. I become more sedentary. My appetite will go down. So, I mean, have you noticed that yourself, Claire, with your diet? So, you were introduced a form of weight training recently, some breast resistance workouts.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that your appetite has been stimulated because of that?
Yes. Yes. It's and I'm feeling like I'm getting weight, and the more I'm getting muscles, the more I want to eat.
Mm.
Is and I sometimes I cannot wait for too long between meals, and I really need to eat more frequently. And I'm thinking that my metabolism is increasing. So I will say that at the beginning of my journey, I was eating tons to refeed, but once I've been refed, it was like steady. And now that I'm increasing my amount of resistance training, I really need to up all this again.
Mm.
And yeah, it helps me to keep as well some fat intake on the evening, pure fat intake on the evening after I finish all my food from the day. It really helps me to stabilize my body and not to be hungry during nighttime. This is really, really important.
Yeah, I know quite a number of people have introduced that into their diets where they've perhaps they don't sleep very well. They want to have a snack at night. They'll just have a tablespoon or two of butter. That would just be it, nothing else. Even tallow, maybe things like that. They might make a decaf coffee with butter in it. There's different things you can try out, and it seems to me, at least, like fat is the only macronutrient you can have on its own without ill effects. At
Yeah.
least if you're well fat adapted, your gallbladder's working effectively to pump out the bile acids and so on and so forth. I wanted to ask as well. So you you had about 6 sticks of butter a day
Yeah.
when you started off on this sort of journey. For anyone that doesn't know that, I'm guessing that's around 700 grams roughly of butter.
Yes, it
But
is.
that is an enormous amount of energy. Claire comes from a background where she needed that additional energy to support herself. So when you
But
started that,
you have to remember, people, that my fat mass was less than 5%,
mm,
my body fat. So
Claire was
it's really,
ripped.
really low.
Yeah, yeah. So Claire needed more. So when you started these 6 sticks of butter a day, was that incremental? Did you start at one, then two, then three, or was it I'm going straight to six?
Oh, no, it was, I couldn't stop eating the butter, I was like going with butter with my food, and then like half an hour later I was just walking to my fridge to take another piece, and I didn't mean to eat 6 sticks of butter a day. It happened on its own.
Mm,
And when I was grocery shopping, if I was going through the butter area, I was just taking a stick of butter and eating it in the supermarket. I just couldn't stop myself, and it was through the day, and I was waking up in the middle of the night needing to have more butter. So I was really eating almost 24 hours per day,
yeah,
just
I
because
I can
I,
relate
I
to
really
that.
needed the nutrients.
I can relate to that when I've been around 4% body fat before a bodybuilding competition. Immediately after the show, we're ravenous. I mean, you sit there and you eat whatever you want. You just think, oh, I have some. I can't really eat chocolate; it makes me depressed. But I have a bar of chocolate, then I have a bar of chocolate with melt chocolate on it, then I had some chocolate on that, then I'd dip sweets on it and eat candy and things. And like, no matter how much I ate, I could never feel satiated because my body fat was so low, but my energy in my body was so low. I could just eat and eat and eat and eat. And for people that are watching this, they probably think that's nonsense. 6 sticks of butter. I think it's completely true. Claire's a very honest lady, and until you've been in that situation where you've been 4, 5, 6% body fat, and 5% as a female is very low. So you got to think it's very possible. But a lot of people that watch this channel perhaps aren't coming from an eating disorder background, particularly the underweight side. But what have you seen, like anecdotally online, Claire? So people that perhaps starting from a higher body fat percentage. I mean, are you suggesting to them that maybe they have a stick of butter a day, or is it that they just do even split, or what?
I would say that if you want to balance your hormones in a way, you need to be able to eat enough fat. And the average of 1 stick of butter a day is good. What is really good with the butter is that it's really easy to have. You can just go to the grocery store and buy a stick of butter. Now that yeah, I'm further in my journey, I really prefer to go with tallow. I prefer to go with bone marrow. I prefer to go with other kind of fat. And yeah, a stick of butter is really easy to have an idea about the amount of fat you need to eat. And yeah, it depends as well the kind of meat you're eating. People that are eating lean meat, I would say that they have to go even more than 1 stick of butter a day. But if you're eating a fatty meat, sometimes, yeah, if you don't have the stick of butter, it's not a big deal. But yeah, on average, the stick of butter is mandatory, I said.
Yeah, I think so as well. And a lot of people come to the diet because of issues such as arthritis, joint issues, bad skin, eczema, perhaps poor cognitive health, depression, anxiety. I find myself, this is my own experience that is unique to me, and perhaps might be unique to other people as well. I get a lot of my fat from animals. So, the tallow, the beef fat. I also have oily fish as frequently as I can possibly have it. So things like mackerel and sardines for me are essential. They really are an essential food for someone like myself that suffers with autistic spectrum disorder. I've suffered with depression, anxiety in the past. I'm someone that's been around a bit in terms of mental health, so I know roughly what does and doesn't work, and I can honestly vouch for the benefit of having more omega 3 in the diet.
Yeah,
So
DHA are so
mm,
important. And even sometimes when I cannot have so much oily fish, I just go with cod oil. It's really helping.
yeah, just like I was saying, like some people will fall into this way of eating. They'll see people eating a stick or a brick of butter a day, think that's going to resolve all their problems. Not necessarily. In terms of omega 3 in things like butter, there is some, but it's not a lot. But if you want to get a decent amount, honestly, get the oily fish in. That will definitely improve your health outcomes. And there's a bit of concern about fish in terms of the mercury content, particularly of the bigger fish that accumulate more mercury as it goes up the food chain. What I'll say about that is mercury is in a lot of things you eat, and it's not just fish. People be quite surprised if you measure the content of different foods you're eating. It'd be quite enormous. Myself and Harry Sopanos are of the opinion that um, we can almost detox from mercury naturally just through having a proper species specific diet. And that means having enough selenium and other trace minerals in your diet to actually effectively chelate that mercury out of your body. Myself, as someone who has tried this sort of protocol with the oily fish, I can honestly say it does work, at least for me. So don't be too concerned about the oily fish. And I'll probably get hammered by the audience for this and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. This is my individual unique experience. I would suggest people do get a mix of animal fats. Don't Don't just go for the brick of butter day of chicken breast. Have, fatty beef, butter, lard, what bone marrow, whatever you like. Have the oily
Chicken
fish as well.
skin,
Chicken
anything.
skin,
Yeah.
yeah, rich in collagen, brilliant.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's really, really good. So yeah, and bone broth, just keep your all the bones on your meat, just keep them and cook bone broth. You will have the fat, you will have the protein, the collagen, everything. So yeah, you can get the fat from a lot of different source. And yeah, now it's not just about eating butter.
Mm.
And yeah, and some days if you want to eat tons of yolks, you will get some really amazing protein and fat with the yolks. So go ahead, do it.
Yeah,
Just
I think I think some of the most overrated advice in our online carnivore community is that just do steak, beef, salt, and water. Honestly, unless you get a very fatty cut of beef, you won't get enough fat in your diet. You will have to add fat to it in a lot of cases, especially if you have a high energy expenditure like myself and Claire. You'll need a lot more fat in your diet. Um, I'm thinking like you, Claire. I'm thinking, yolks, egg yolks, tons of choline, B vitamins, riboflavin, all those essential nutrients that, although you can find to some degree in beef, many of us have genetic polymorphisms, which mean we cannot actually assimilate the vitamins as well as other people. For example, I have the MTHFR methylation pathway defect, essentially, where I have a high requirement of folate. But the way you upregulate your folate content in your blood is actually through the riboflavin, the vitamin B2. B2 is rich in liver and it's rich in egg yolks. So think whole animal foods, don't neglect all these other things. So there's a lot to be gained from having a mixed carnivore diet. And that's just what I'm thinking anyway.
yeah. And what I love in this discussion is that we are speaking about energy and we are not speaking about calories. And it's really important because yeah, calories are energy, but what we want to know is yeah, the main energy source and not about the amount exactly. The ratio is important to have something balanced. You need the protein and the fat both, but then try to listen to your body signals and try to adjust your intake.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Claire. I think that pretty much wraps up all we had to discuss today. If anyone has any questions on this topic, please just write them below Claire's video or my own video. We are going to air this on both channels, just because more content. It's better we get the meshed out through as many different avenues as possible. Do you have any closing thoughts, Claire?
I think it's perfect. I hope we will do another video soon again together because we have so much to discuss, and being from the two sides of the community is really, really good to exchange, and we can find that we have so much in common, even if you're a big guy and I'm a skinny girl.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that, Claire. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks to you. Bye-bye.